We wrap up our work for the spring, but we're not going out of business. We'll be back when the world requires us to be back. But for the next weeks or months, the world is safe because the General Assembly is not in session.
That is Senate President Don Harmon Sunday morning at like 2 in the morning talking about how the world is safe because the General Assembly is no longer in session. After they wrapped up a marathon going from 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday all the way to like 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, passing hundreds of bills over the past week, and a lot of legislation that we've got to get through. Stuff impacting employers, stuff impacting employees, stuff impacting schools, stuff impacting taxpayers, the highest, largest spending plan in state history. But there's some things they didn't advance that did not make it through the finish line, and that's what we're going to tackle here this morning, just a couple of days after they adjourned spring session. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. You can wake up with the show each and every weekday morning at 8 o'clock. We go live. You can join the live chat with a pretty lively bunch there. But we focus on what's going on at the Illinois State House. Not a lot of focus on that. I hear more and more from readers and watchers who really appreciate what we do here because we do that deep dive. I get paid to be on the State House grounds to watch what's going on and to bring you the news as a free newswire service, a non-profit newswire service at the Center Square. So it's a way for you to tap in to get easy to understand what's going on at the State House. So I've been doing this for 11 years now, and it's pretty fascinating to see a lot of the similarities from year to year, but also some differences. So let's get to it. They passed over 430 bills over the past several months, if not just the past couple of weeks. So there's a lot of legislation that the governor's going to get on his desk this summer. But stuff that didn't pass. Remember the controversial Homeschool Act? State Representative Tara Costa Howard actually pulling that from consideration back in April. That's after there was massive amounts of opposition against the Homeschool Act. It would have regulated homeschool parents to say you have to notify the state that you're homeschooling your kids, or else the kids could be found truant, and that could open up a whole can of worms for the parents, including possible criminal liability. So there was massive opposition against the Homeschool Act. That never advanced. Something else that also didn't advance, it passed the House, but it didn't get brought up in the Senate, and that was the measure that would have allowed for medically assisted death, meaning assisted suicide. A lot of debate on the House floor about this several days before the end of session when they did pass it on the House floor. Some pretty heart-wrenching stories of people suffering from terminal cancer and wanting to not have the last moments of their lives not be dignified, and they wanted to have control over it. And you know, these really hard stories to hear, and it really does strike your emotion. But the opponents of the medical aid in dying, or medically assisted death, or assisted suicide, included Dr. Bill Howder. He's an emergency room physician and a state legislator, a Republican from Morton, and he shared why he thinks this is just a bad bill.
Illinois deserves better. When we debate this topic, 3 minutes, life, death, suicide, mental health, drug safety, coercion, insurance, medical ethics, right of consciousness, the Medical Practice Act, inequalities in care, all stuffed in a shell bill late Friday with little time for stakeholders to have input in the last few days at the end of session. This process is wrong. I object to this being called a sanitary food preparation bill.
And again, that's something that happens quite a bit. And you've watched this show, you know now about shell bills, where they take a bill that say is about food sanitary prep. It passes one chamber and then is amended in the other chamber to gut and replace it with physician-assisted suicide. It has nothing to do with food safety prep. And then it's sprung upon the legislators within the final days of legislative action. So that's where Bill Howder's pretty upset about the process of this. And it's not just for this bill. It happens for a lot of bills. But he says people should vote against this. And even, interestingly, making a little bit of a weird joke at the end about how people should skip out on this vote.
Don't give insurance companies another tactic, another tool to pressure patients, to pressure the disabled, the poor, the terminally ill, with no care. with death. I ask the members of this Illinois House, don't pass this bill. Vote no, or don't vote at all. It's the first time a physician will recommend you go out and take a smoke break.
So he says go out and take a smoke break. So this is all happening before the legislative session ends May 31st at midnight. And so it takes simple majorities to get this passed if it has an immediate effective date. That's why that May 31st deadline's there. After that, you have to have super majorities, no longer a simple majority, but super majorities. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So here's what the vote looked like on the big board in the House when this was brought up late in the week last week.
Have all voted a wish?
You could see it, votes counting up.
Ms. Clerk, please take the record.
Almost barely.
On this question, there are 63 voting yes, 42 voting no, 2 voting present.
And it passed. So that, again, kind of shows you, it got 61. That's the threshold. And then it got 2 more votes, 63 votes. So it passed the House, but it was never brought up in the Illinois Senate. So it's still just hanging out there in the Senate. And it was actually something on concurrence. So all the Senate had to do was just take it and concur with it. Again, an amendment to a food sanitation bill. Medical assisted suicide. Could it come back up later on this year? Yeah, it could. It could possibly come back up in November. We'll see and watch what happens. But something else that didn't advance was the transit consolidation bill. They've been talking about this for a year and a half. They've held a dozen hearings that have all been like 3 or 4 hour long hearings about the idea of bringing some kind of stability to the transit systems, especially in the northern part of the state where they're facing a $750 million fiscal cliff. They wanted to consolidate all these things, and to pay for the cliff, they were going to tack on a $1.50 tax per retail delivery, which is everything from Amazon to Grubhub and beyond. Here is State Senator Ram Villivalum. The last day of session, hour before the midnight deadline, with the measure saying it's time for this to pass.
It will provide the world-class, safe, reliable, accessible, and integrated public transit system we need for our northeastern Illinois region. It will also, through major reforms and robust transformational funding, it will also ensure that the 54 downstate transit agencies that operate in 95 counties see robust investment to ensure people also in those areas can get from point A to point B.
So obviously it has the consolidation of the transit agencies, which Republicans were worried that didn't give enough say on boards from the suburbs. And then they came to some kinds of agreement on what that would look like. But this bill put together, put on the Senate floor, with an hour left before that midnight deadline of May 31st, and there was pushback. State Senator Andrew Chesney, a Republican from Freeport, pretty upset about the idea of people who don't use mass transit being taxed to pay for mass transit.
And so we asked, do we take care of ourselves? But I don't think my people should be paying for your people's transit. And that's exactly what this bill's going to do. And then I start to dig in a little bit deeper into this bill, and everything you guys say when it comes to food deserts and fighting for working families and fighting for minorities, you guys want to put a tax on prescription deliveries. You guys are going to put a tax on every Amazon package that delivers into our communities. You're going to put a tax on Grubhub and Instacart and all these different taxes. Just tax, tax, tax. And our people are going to wake up in our districts and they're going to be really, really upset. Because we're paying for your dysfunction. We're paying for your problems.
So Chesney saying you're essentially taxing people who have no stake or usership of mass transit. Measure passed the Senate. Again, it was like an hour before that midnight deadline Saturday. Never got called in the House. And while the Senate was wrapping stuff up, the House, after midnight, so it's now June 1st, they tried to bring up a bill after that midnight deadline that dealt with K through 12 suspensions, trying to regulate K through 12 suspensions of kids in schools. And since it's after midnight, the threshold changed, and State Representative Patrick Windhorst on the House floor forced that issue.
Mr. Speaker, inquiry of the chair.
State inquiry.
What is the vote threshold needed for passage?
I believe for immediate effective date it is 71, and for delayed effective date is 60.
And as it relates to this bill, do you know what will be required for passage?
So the acting speaker at that time, State Representative Jay Hoffman, took about 2 minutes to talk with the parliamentarians to get clarification on now it's past midnight. It's June 1st. It's no longer May 31st. This bill is up for consideration. How many votes does it take? It's going to take that supermajority, 71 votes.
Leader? Yes. So my understanding, unbelievably, I was correct. 71 votes for it to take effect immediately, but it would still pass constitutionally if it got 60 votes, but it would not be effective till the following June 30th. So it would be June 30th of 2026.
Thank you. Will the sponsor yield?
After all that, you're going to ask questions.
Sorry. You know me.
Sponsor yields.
Again, this is at like 12:35 in the morning, Sunday morning, after the May 31st deadline. The vote threshold changes. And I wanted to just show you that because, I mean, the procedures here really do matter, right? And knowing the rules of the General Assembly in each chamber and the vote thresholds and knowing the constitutional requirements for how bills pass and go through the process, it's important because of times like this. So it's after midnight and this vote comes up. How many Democrats are actually in the chamber? Are they able to pass things with super majorities it being after midnight? This bill from Will Davis, you can see here, it's got 68 votes as the votes are trying to come in. Ammons wasn't there. I believe Scheer wasn't there. Doesn't get the supermajority. 69 votes. They needed 2 more. And getting ready to announce the outcome.
Mr. Clerk, please take the record. The gentleman asked for postponed consideration. Postponed consideration is granted.
So it didn't have the number to get a passage. So he moved to have postponed consideration, which means don't take that official tally. I want to wait to do this again later. But they didn't bring that back up. And that was a sign that, hey, they don't have the votes in the Democrats caucus to get things across the finish line. And then the transit bill ultimately stalls and doesn't go anywhere. Before the end of session, the various leaders gave their floor speeches. Here is House Minority Leader Tony McCombie talking about the possibility of negative consequences from policies that Democrats passed in the past month.
The outcomes of this session are well predicted to be disastrous. Speaker, you are on a path that ensures leadership at the highest levels will have many challenges.
So many challenges ahead. The speaker said that the challenges are going to come from Washington, D.C.
You see, none of us here know what the future holds in this volatile environment. But the leaders in this House have been unequivocal that we will not surrender our role in shaping the future. We will be vigilant, we will be compassionate, and if Washington's agenda warrants, yes, we will be back here to continue that effort.
Now, when that is, could it be a month from now? Could it be a special session that's called? Last I checked, they had not yet done the veto.
We wrap
the veto session schedule. So that should be possibly in October or November. We'll keep you posted on when that is. So they wrap up session the next morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. Governor Pritzker taking questions. And in particular, he took questions about the transit bill not passing.
Yeah.
Would that fall in that category of broad-based taxes?
Well, again, I think, when I think of the broad-based taxes in the state, I think of the largest, sources of tax revenue, and those are income tax, the individual income tax, the corporate income tax, the sales tax. I obviously want to make sure we're lowering, not raising taxes whenever we can. And so, again, I think the decisions that will get made at the working group table over the next bunch of months and that'll get surfaced, I hope we'll get response. I hope Republicans will help. They have not helped so far with, what sources of revenue might help to address the transit challenges that, their communities, the Republicans that live in their areas, the Democrats that live in their communities, need them to step up to the plate too.
So the idea of broad-based taxes, we heard the governor say that he opposes that, he would veto that, but this transit bill didn't come forward all the way, which had what some may consider a broad-based tax of $1.50 per transaction when it comes to retail delivery. So how's that going to move forward is a great question. And then something else that didn't really advance, comprehensive ethics reforms. Proposals include allowing for the governor and other constitutional officers to fundraise for federal office during legislative days outside of Sangamon County, because there is a prohibition of people holding fundraisers, legislators holding fundraisers in Sangamon County or near Sangamon County during legislative calendar days. Proposals out there now that would let the governor or the lieutenant governor who's running for federal office to fundraise around and in Sangamon County if they want to. So that's not really that great of an ethics reform. Other measures would help the Senate president clean up the issues that he's had with election funding and campaign finance. And those aren't necessarily addressing the, guilty verdicts that were handed down for the longest-serving State House Speaker in State House history, Mike Madigan, and all the other corruption that we've seen that federal prosecutors go after. Pritzker says those things are still going to be a focus.
I mean, I think that, once again, ethics hugely important to me. We try to address them whenever we can. We had a very busy session. There were, in fact, discussions with, with the chair of the committee in the House anyway about his ideas for this. So we're going to continue to address it wherever we can. And I don't think you can ever stop talking about how do you make sure that we have a corruption-free and an honest government.
So we're going to see any real ethics changes. It's going to be something on our radar as we continue to track what's happening at the Illinois State House. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. That's what didn't pass. But we've still got 430 some odd bills that we got to talk about throughout the rest of the summer as the governor prepares to sign a lot of this legislation. Whew. Like I said, I think I'm still kind of hungover from a very long weekend of covering legislative session. It might take me a week to fully recuperate. I'm Greg Bishop. Get the headlines in your inbox, thecentersquare.com. Like, subscribe, hit this notification bell here on YouTube to watch Illinois in Focus daily each and every weekday morning. Get news clips and other shows with the Center Square here on YouTube, and get this podcast where you get podcasts.
It improves the FOID card process.
No, that's next segment. Just search Illinois in Focus and you'll find it.